I don't know how to start this episode off. Tristan?
Do you ever?
Yeah, Tristan, do you have any words of wisdom to start us off with this episode of TokuSake?
Go Sake Rangers, Mighty Morphin Sake Rangers.
Bow. Alright, so I'm Matt. I'm here along with Tristan. This is your bottom shelf Tokusatsu and Sake podcast. This is he laughed just as hard as the joke laughed last time, and I'm very happy because like it's been a month. We're doing these monthly, but last time you were like, that is hilarious, and now I hear the same exact enthusiastic laughter, and I'm like, oh my god,
It's still
no. I'm like, you're gonna forget every month because it's monthly.
No,
you're gonna forget.
That's true. I am gonna forget every month, but I think the best part of it was I was like, oh, it's just a quirky way to introduce. It's like, yeah, because you put your liquors on the shelf, but also then my brain kicked in and it's like, no, dumbass, it's supposed to be a quirk on the quality.
Exactly. It's
and now that I've explained the joke to everybody, it's not going to be funny anymore.
Oh, don't worry, it wasn't funny to begin with. But so we today, by the way, this is our Halloween special. Ooh. We are talking about a specific episode of Power Rangers because usually here we just take like 1-2 episodes, maybe a movie or a TV special or something like that, just to kind of break down a little bit of the history of it. And so today we are talking about which episode is this? The name has already escaped me, despite the fact that I loved, unironically, everything about it. But the episode name somehow is, and I've had nothing to drink yet. I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I should start having some of the sake. But either way, this episode, it had, by the way, Frankenstein in it. The man himself, Tristan. He took time out of his busy schedule to appear in a Power Rangers episode.
God. I don't know what I expected, but I'm going to be real mad. It wasn't that.
No, life's a masquerade. And I don't know why. So I knew Masquerade was in it, but like for some reason, a bunch of other titles from Toku passed with Masquerade in it. Also, Life, because Life was in it, I was thinking of Ryuki as well, because of the opening theme song having the word life in it. But anyway, again, I have yet to take a sip of alcohol. Point is that this is episode 25 of season 1, and I saw this episode long time ago when I was a wee little one. Tristan, how long ago it was for you since you saw this episode for the first time?
I was today years old when I saw this episode for the first time.
You were.
Although, I have seen the first 5 episodes of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers because we watched it at a friend's house for his birthday.
Oh, right, and then you also had seen the movie with him.
The
newest film.
What was that? 2018.
2017.
2017. Okay, I was close.
You were actually. So, and I also could be super wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 2017. I still have yet to see that film, funnily enough, for some odd reason. But when it comes to, maybe we can do that on an episode in the future, but when it comes to both Frankenstein and his appearance in this episode, and also your lack of knowledge in Power Rangers, for anyone new listening to the podcast, I bring the Toku knowledge, you bring the Sake knowledge, and we create subpar content. But
you were right, it was 2017.
It's really funny. Adam, I've already forgotten that I've said anything about that, so I was like, we create subpar content, and you're like, correct, immediately, without skipping a beat. And I was like, holy shit, all right, I get it, but fuck.
So maybe you need to drink more and I need to drink less?
Actually, yes. So I will be opening up my bottle of sake. We'll be talking about our sakes later. I've had some of this already. You could heat this one up. Again, I'll be talking about it more in depth later, but you could heat this one up. But sadly, so when we were initially planning on recording this, we're trying to record this all month. You and I have been super busy, either super busy or super tired. And when it came to earlier in the month, this is coming out, by the way, as all of you are listening or watching this, on Halloween the 31st, midnight. But we were going to record this much earlier in advance than we are right now. So it was cold in New York. Now it's warm again, oddly.
It's humid.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So I did not heat this up, and I will be drinking at room temperature, which thankfully is also excellent as well. So this is going to be fun. But when I know your sake, by the way, is what is the age on that? When did you get that sake?
Um, so I think I actually don't know.
Oh, that's beautiful. You said to me on the record before the episode, so I guess off the record, but now it's on the record. You said a year ago.
That's what my father claimed.
Oh, that's a lovely
'Cause
sentence.
yeah, he brought it back from a trip,
Mm-hmm.
and
That doesn't sound suspicious at all, but go on. You're just
well he
adding to the mystery of this sake. He brought it back from a trip and he claimed it was a year old.
wow, you made it sound so much worse than it actually is. But okay. Basically, he goes to a bladesmith guild like seminar each year
Okay,
with friends
okay.
of his.
Yeah, that sounds so much better than
Well, no, now I
he
have to give it
came back.
context because you made it sound shady, and it's just because this is a yearly trip that my father takes, and I know of it and no one else does.
No, that's fine. It's just
Wait,
he came
that doesn't
back.
make it sound great either.
No, no,
It's
no.
not that no
That's
one else does. Other people that go to this do know.
no, no.
Shut up, Matt.
Look. If you told me, hey, listen, it was just a fun little excursion in the woods, I wouldn't care. But when you're just like, oh, he came from a trip, his clothes were stained with blood, and he said, here's this sake, it's a year old. And you're like, okay. And then you're drinking it today for this episode. I want to make sure you don't turn into the Frankenstein monster, basically.
No, Matt, come on, you've known me longer than that. I would obviously turn into the Dragon Zord.
Yes, you would. And you would not change size, which would be even funnier. You would be your height, just sitting at your chair as the Dragon Zord.
Yes, obviously.
Mm.
But yeah, he said, oh, it was last year when I came back, from the seminar. And my mom was like, I'm pretty sure that bottle's been there for a few years, but okay. So
Oh
now
no.
I'm not sure who was correct. Because there were two bottles, and one of them was empty, and then there was this one, and they were the same bottle. So I'm not sure who confused which bottle, or if any confusion did occur.
Okay, so this
So
could
yeah,
be from the seminar, or would then already be a few years old before, this year, because it's been a year since then.
yeah,
That was when people can go out to seminars and shit.
yeah,
And also or with one that's just genuinely a year old. Is
yeah.
what you're saying. Okay, so because you guys
So
got that for his birthday, you had mentioned to me.
yeah, that was
Okay.
a different bottle.
Okay. So that's wonderful. Again, we'll be talking about both bottles a little bit later, but talking about Power Rangers. So you and Tokusatsu in general, of course, you did not get into it when you were younger. We've joked about this in car rides, just traveling around. But when you could do that, obviously, a year or so ago. At this point, we made you were telling me that it was something that you would have enjoyed, but for some reason it never caught your attention. Do you know why that is, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why that is. What channel was Power Rangers on at the
So
time?
here's what's really funny. I'm gonna fuck them up real good. Fox
Uh-oh.
Kids. It wasn't like it
Okay,
was some random chat. It was Fox Kids with Digimon.
right. Okay, that's fair.
Were
So
you
I
were you a Kids
definitely,
WB kid?
yeah, I definitely watched Digimon. Although when it conflicted with Pokemon, I went with Pokemon,
Right.
which I'm
Well,
starting to think was the wrong choice. But
well, I mean, both were good. I watched both.
yeah,
Well, because
no,
you
of
know what it is
course.
for me. For me, because here's the interesting thing. So you and I, in theory, could not have seen this when it came out, or at least would not have been, would not have had. This would have been a core memory, I believe, because Power Rangers came out. Well, no, because Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out in '93. So you and I
Right.
would have been one.
One. Yes.
So I saw Power Rangers because my dad's girlfriend at the time said, "Oh, I for some reason her kid was watching it, and she was like, hey, this is what the kids are into nowadays. Like, you want to, like you are here with your son. Would you like to, keep him occupied watching Power Rangers?" And he was like, I guess so. Because even though my dad he really liked Godzilla back in the day, I don't think he connected the two as like, oh yes, this is like the stuff I used to see from Japan.
Right.
Because it's obviously, superheroes and whatnot. I don't think at the time he knew that it was, based around Japanese footage. I don't know if the mainstream media at the time pointed that out. They just,
I doubt it.
Because they could have, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming they kind of focused more on the fact that it was, a huge phenomenon with the kids, because it was. Power Rangers was huge. If anyone, for anyone in Tristan's position who were like, yeah, I kind of heard about it. It's like, no, it was the big thing, not just on the playground, but like everywhere, because of the fact that, this is something that I'm not saying this never happened in the U.S. You obviously had your American superheroes on TV and in film at the time, but having a series like this just constantly pump out new episodes because of how cheap it was to produce. As a kid, it blew my mind having a show like this in live action with these 5 teens who have attitudes. Clearly, look at how look at their attitudes. By the way, they were all clearly delinquents, all of them.
I love how they even, like, in the intro, it's like, you must recruit 5 teenagers with attitude. I'm like, why does this specifically have to be with attitude?
No. It's fine if it's with attitude. I love that none of them had it, though. That's the funny part. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, they might as well have just been, like, at church youth group gatherings. And it's like, wow, these kids really have attitude. Like, it's just it was the silliest thing to just be like, they all 5 of them clearly have attitudes. When Bulk and Skull have more attitudes. By the way, in my youth, I wanted to be Skull, who is the skinny ne'er-do-well.
Right.
But as an adult, I know that I am truly Bulk, the heavier ne'er-do-well. The one who was older Elvis, the one who died on the can.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. Mighty Morphin came out in 93. Zyuranger, where all the footage is based off of, and sorry for anyone who knows all of this history, just I'm teaching this both to Tristan and anyone listening in who might not know. Zyuranger came out a year prior. What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
Nothing.
I was too... No, you can tell me. I'm too busy being smart and sexy. Can you tell me?
Sorry to everybody else. I just have to teach this to Tristan. I'm like, again.
Right, yes, I've told you this before, and you've promptly not listened, and if you did listen, you've wiped it from your memory banks. So Zyuranger came out a year prior, and there, funnily enough, was no way to legally watch Zyuranger until 5 years back when Shout Factory, the company that is also releasing Mystery Science Theater 3000 on DVD, they started working with Saban at the time to actually bring Sentai to the US, both on DVD and thankfully also on certain streaming services. So while you and I, Tristan, watched this episode of Mighty Morphin on Netflix, which I don't think it's on any other streaming services, interestingly enough, when it comes to Super Sentai, Zyuranger, you can actually check that out to see, quote unquote, where Power Rangers originally came from. Over at Tubi TV, Tokusatsu, Shout Factory's own website. So that's actually pretty cool because, again, for years, as a fan of who grew up with Power Rangers, who wanted to see what was going on with the original series and other series in the Sentai line, there was no legal way to do that for years.
Right.
So just a side note, that's also pretty cool. So when you see the Frankenstein monster, you can actually see where he came from, which was a later episode of Zyuranger that was actually very plot heavy, funnily enough. So it wasn't a random one-off, Halloween special. It was actually part of a greater plot. Don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to. Well, because the reason why is because in the Japanese version, you don't just have Rita Repulsa randomly be in space. She's actually a witch from the prehistoric era named Bandora, who hates children and wants to make them cry. And so each monster, like this one was called, each monster has part of her name in their name. So this monster was Dora Franken. And this was meant to be literally a, creature brought back to life. And it actually transforms into a creature that is so disturbing. I'll send it to you right now. They actually did not have him morph or even use that creature in the show itself, in Power Rangers.
Oh.
And mind you, this is the show that had Zed. So if something's creepy. It turned into Zombie Franken. And then I swear to God, I'm not fucking with you, Satan Franken.
Oh. Well, that might have something to do with it.
Well, no. Satan, its design, you could call it something else, right? But its design, I would argue, while creepy, I mean, it kind of looks a bit more like zombie Franken. But I'm telling you, dude, when you look at these two on the right, and it's fucking terrifying. I'll send it to you right now. So, either way, though, when I just want to hear his reaction as he sees this picture, the one in the middle is the one that they were like, no, we're not gonna have this on our show for 5-year-olds.
Oh. Oh.
So if anyone, you should look it up, but basically the face is completely off, like completely like red, like as if there's no skin. The teeth are razor sharp.
It looks like he just ripped off his face.
Yes. And,
what the fuck?
And his torso.
What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't. Why?
Well, because when they impaled him, it actually caused him to transform instead of explode. So he went from Franken to zombie to Satan. Which, I mean, that's how any... I mean, if you're talking about not watching Digimon before. If you had watched Digimon, you'd know that's just the general... That's just how...
Yeah, that's fair.
No, but seriously...
Oh god, this is just the Digivolution. Jesus Christ.
Completely. No, but yeah, so if anyone looks that up, be prepared. It's fucking terrifying. Zombie Franke. Or,
yeah I love how his final form is not as terrifying as his second form.
Exactly. So, anywho, the point is that it was actually...
look at this anymore. Oh god, this is gonna fucking haunt my dreams tonight. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of want to throw up a little if you look at it too long. So,
thanks a lot, man. I had to like click away because like my eyes were just getting drawn into the fucking black holes of where his eyes used to be and where his face used to be.
God, it's wonderful. So anyway, it's metal as fuck. So, and again, this was a show that had Zed. They were like, no, that's too far. So, and Zed is an entirely new creation, by the way. If you don't know that, Tristan, he's new. So here's some fun facts. So, were you able to tell? I'm curious to ask this of someone who is not a fan of Sentai and hasn't seen much Power Rangers. Were you able to tell what scenes were American and what scenes were Japanese, were part of Sentai? And obviously the scenes where you have, the kids, the teens with attitude, obviously those are the American scenes, but otherwise, were you able to tell via footage quality what was new and what was old?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so it was very easy to tell, because as a kid, I wasn't able to tell on a tube TV. But now I'm like, clearly.
That's fair.
So what I'm interested in, though, is, so you noticed that Frankenstein, they're two different actors playing him.
Right.
You say right like you didn't notice.
That there's two actors? Well, wait.
Okay, so I guess he didn't notice. So the Frankenstein that was with quote-unquote Rita Repulsa, you can tell that the eyes were red over because there was like some like apparatus, something that they had over, and it was a Japanese person playing him because that's from Zoo Ranger. They had an American stand-in for the actual episode itself when he interacted with the kids at the youth center, or when he was like randomly looking in Bulk and Skull's house and he was just like, what the fuck? Right. So that version just was normal Frankenstein, had nothing over the eyes. But the Japanese version from Zero Ranger actually had like red over the eyes and also was dubbed over. And that's the other thing too, by the way. Rita and her ilk, the Bandora gang, they were all dubbed over. So even her were all dubbed into English. So none of them were US footage. All of them in that cave, minus Billy randomly walking in. And that's why you can see when he walks in, he doesn't actually see them. He sees the American Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And then they fight in the cave. So it goes from them fighting in the cave, American Frankenstein, to Japanese Frankenstein with the rest of the Power Rangers outside of the cave.
Yeah.
So again, very interesting how they, melded all the footage together. And even for you being like, well, I can clearly tell that, the footage downgraded. That little, shift with the Frankenstein costume and whatnot, it went past you.
Okay, maybe I did. Like, I thought there was something different about it, but then they started fighting, and I was like, all right, whatever.
And by the way, no, first of all,
But like, I knew where. Like, yeah, it was obvious for me. I'm like, okay, this is the Japanese footage, and this is the English footage. Like,
yes, just well, yeah, the coloration, the
yeah,
grain. But I think it's so funny because literally, yeah, you're just sitting there and you're like, there's something different, but taking it with a true Power Rangers approach, you said, yeah, whatever. And you that's kind of how you have to go into it sometimes. I have to say though, I like the way the episode was paced, and this is gonna sound very weird because I'm not trying to put like a director's hat on, be like, oh, it was paced well, but like I'm just saying that it felt like there was always something going on. I know it was only 20 minutes, so that could have also helped with it as well, but it always felt like there was something going on, so there was always something stimulating me, making me feel interested in watching the show. There was never a dull moment in this episode of Power Rangers, which is a weird thing to say, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, there was no, like, oh, let me turn away. It was like, yeah, they're fighting, and then they're not, oh no, he got away. And then there's just, like, a lot of eye popping stuff with Bulk and Skull just hamming it up. And then it just switches over to the youth center where, like, there's just so much shit going on. And it's always filled with something to make you, like, pay attention, if you will.
yeah,
It's hard to
yeah. I forgot
explain.
they all hang out at the youth center
Right. Yes, of course.
all the
Because
time.
again, they're rebellious. All right.
Yeah, it's got the same coloration as a '90s Taco Bell.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Oh, and I think something that you said. You talked about your exact words were, "We're getting the robot laid tonight."
No, well, no, just I think.
No, you're not. You're not wrong. Alpha could apparently get it, and that's not something that I ever thought of with the
Oh,
show.
what was my? Yeah, no, I was just imagining it from like their perspective, like oh, they were like at the end of the episode, he's like that will have to remain a mystery, ladies. I'm sorry, and he runs out, and they're all like ah ha, ha, laughing together. I'm like, so the end, like in the end, they're all laughing together, like ah ha, ha, robot companion's getting laid. What?
Okay, no, that's fair because the way you said it through text and also the way you just paused right now, it sounded like, oh yeah, we're gonna get that robot laid tonight. And you're like, no, 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 I was just imagining it.
Question.
And I'm like, whoa. Because you paused and then you kept going. And I'm like, all right, no, that's fair.
Question mark.
Yeah, so but no, but really, oh, by the way, if you don't know Tristan, Zordon and Alpha are also new. They are not part of Super Sentai lore and Zero Ranger. Alpha also, this is something you and I discussed before the podcast, voiced over by the same actor who played Invader Zim. And you
Right.
also mentioned the character from Angry Beavers?
Yeah, Daggett.
Okay. Which beaver is that? Is that a beaver?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Daggett's the younger brother, brown coat of fur, red nose.
Ah, okay.
Norbert is the older brother, tan fur and blue nose.
Okay, here. So, no, I'm listening. I just want to make sure. So, yes, it is Richard Steven Horvitz,
Yeah,
or sometimes credited as Richard Wood. Yeah, so he was Alpha 5. Yeah, I want to be specific. So he was Alpha in Power Rangers, and it was so funny when that clicked to me. I think it was in high school when I realized this because, like, I was sitting there, I was like, I love Alpha and I love Invader Zim, and then finally I was like, wait a minute.
yeah.
Hold on. So that did not click to you immediately, or did it?
No, it did.
Oh, okay. But
I just thought of Angry Beavers first because the voice that he does for Alpha sounds more like Daggett than it does when he does the voice for like Zim.
that's fair. That's fair. And when it comes to Frankenstein, because again he was dubbed over in English, he was dubbed over by Tom Weiner, who actually has done a lot of different roles in Power Rangers, dubbing over different characters and whatnot. Just in Mighty Morphin alone, he was Bones, Giant, Mighty Minotaur, Nasty Knight, Panoctopus, Dark Warrior, Commander Crayfish, Mirror Maniac.
Commander Crayfish.
Oh, these names are so beautiful. Mr. Tickle Sneezer.
All
That
right,
one
you lost
immediately made him stop.
me. Yeah. What?
Genie. Spidertron,
Spider.
Samurai Fan Man,
Okay, come on.
Plague Sentry, and Doomstone. Which, by the way, Doomstone just sounds cool. Like, Doomstone sounds like a really cool NES game.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's gonna be my new band name, my new metal band.
Doomstone, that's fair.
Doomstone.
That one's fair. So, yeah, so this episode, Life's a Masquerade, is about...
sorry. It's going to be Commander Crayfish and the Doomstones. There we go.
Thank you
Nailed
so
it.
much. You did, Commander Crayfish, or are you part of the Doomstones?
Oh,
Are you the commander?
yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right,
I am Commander Crayfish of the Doomstone.
All right, I will refer to you as Commander from now on. So, Commander, when I'm never gonna forget that until I do. When it comes to this episode, if anyone, even though we're doing this 30 minutes in, if anyone didn't watch this episode, which you totally should have, by the way, but if you did not watch this episode, the Power Rangers are their festivities for Halloween. They're interrupted by Frankenstein, and thank goodness they defeat him. And that's the episode. Literally, that's actually just that's not even the bare bones. That is the episode. They padded this one out a lot with bulk and skull stuff. They probably sat there and they were like, look, this is a fucking Halloween episode. We're not going to go crazy here. We have the youth center. We have a random house set for Bulk and Skull. Let's just have them have some fun there for a few minutes. And then, the stuff that was in the cave. Sadly, I haven't seen the Zoo Ranger version of this, so I don't know what specifically they were saying. Probably just generic stuff about, taking over the world. I don't know. I don't think Dora Franken actually does have dialogue, though, which is why it's really funny that he had the random dialogue he did here. The way he was dubbed over. But...
all the random
pretty much.
Which you really I gotta not knocking the dude at all. He really sold those.
Oh, I mean, he wasn't just in Mighty Morphin. He was also in Turbo, Lost Galaxy, Time Force, and Wild Force. Was he in? You saw 2 episodes of Time Force with me.
I did.
No, he wasn't in an episode you would know.
Were those the 2 episodes that I watched with you?
No, he was in the 8th. Damn it, you just missed him. He was actually the, let me see, he was the fat catfish.
The fat cat.
Correct.
That's gonna be my country band.
Well, you're just, Commander, you're just expanding your brand. I gotta say, Commander.
Oh.
Oddly enough, though, I was under the impression they did not use the monster suit from the horrific monster we had mentioned before, but apparently they did. I don't know how they used it, though. They might have used the less face tearing off version of it, because just as a reminder, it has been years since I've went back to the original Power Rangers. I should get back to that soon. More of a Sentai guy at this point in my life, but obviously I really do enjoy Power Rangers, as it is the first ever Japanese superhero show. I know American produced, but still Japanese superhero show I've ever seen.
Right.
But yeah, I'm going to assume they did not use the horrific face meldy version. I'll check right now. If they did, by the way, what in the fuck, Power Rangers? What are you doing? But either way, though, Tristan, anything you want to say about this episode? I'm curious what your thoughts are.
If a children's cartoon doesn't scar the children in some way at some point in their lives, then you're not doing it right.
Not a cartoon, but correct.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I'm going to be that person. Now, Now, Tristan, but seriously though, I've been talking about this episode. I said that I unironically loved it, but I actually haven't really talked about this episode yet. So before I do, Tristan, what are your thoughts on this episode? Again, someone who's never really seen a lot of Power Rangers.
I'll definitely say it did feel like, shit, we need something for Halloween. All right, just throw it up there. It's fine. We'll have them fight a giant Frankenstein, and we'll get both of the Megazords in because it's the toughest enemy, and we'll use the spear, which I know is basically the equivalent to Goku's Spirit Bomb.
Well, yes. Also, at this point, because Tommy is part of the team,
right.
You do have...
That was one thing that I was like, oh, hey, Tommy's not brainwashed in this one. Cool.
Yes. The 5 episodes you saw weren't the first 5. They were Green with Evil, right? Where Tommy is brainwashed and then he's unbrainwashed by the end.
I don't think so. No, it was the first 5.
Okay.
Tommy wasn't in it yet.
Then how do you know about Green with Evil?
I'm pretty sure you told me about it.
That sounds like something I would do.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, we've known each other for over 10 years now. I've probably drunkenly been like, so Tommy was a bad guy.
I definitely remember you talking about Tommy being a bad guy before.
And it's different from the Sentai version, because in the Sentai... Yes. I probably did that, yeah. That sounds like something I would do.
I mean, I don't think you were as drunk as you were making it out to sound.
Yeah, that's fair. But either way, though, so because Tommy isn't evil, thank God Bandai can now sell toys. So they were like, we're going to sell you not just the Dragon Zord, but it can also combine with the original Megazord. Buy them. Consume. And
yes.
That is, yeah. And at the time, at least in the U.S., the actual... Megazords were like 50 a pop.
Whew.
Yeah, but also they were huge. These weren't like tiny little versions. Like they were like, well, I mean, not as big as you, but like I'm talking about like these.
No, I wasn't thinking life size, Matt.
Well, I mean, there are life size busts of Power Rangers. I remember my local comic book shop had like the Wild Force Ranger just sitting out, and it was like over $100, and I was like, not only is that huge, but you had it out. Is someone going to buy that once the terrain hits it? No, because like if the sun's beating down on it, that's going to lose some value.
Oh, yeah.
If you have a life-sized Power Rangers bust. Also, it was Wild Force, which like nothing against Wild Force, but like it's not like Mighty Morphin or, I don't know. Just nothing against it.
That's going to have a hot take.
No. Nothing against Wild Force. It was the first season under Disney, but not produced by Disney because Saban had produced it first. Like they were working on it first, but the ownership transferred from Saban to Disney. I believe he got like millions of dollars off of that sale because Disney bought it, had it for years. Then Disney was like, we want to sell this. So then he bought it back, I believe, for less money than he made on it, and then sold it to Hasbro for like $1 billion years later.
All according to Kikaku.
Basically, yes. So that's odd. They did use, I apologize to everyone because I mentioned it's been a while. They did use the creepy faces melted off monster in a later episode. And I don't know why.
I mean...
Well, it's funny. I'll tell you this much. When you look at it on ABC, yes, there's an ABC logo on this YouTube video, so I know that it's legit. When you see it in the episode, it's quick enough. I'm not saying this was like the way they did it in America, the way they edited it up, but it's quick enough that it doesn't look as terrifying as that production still.
Right.
So like it just looks like Zed when you look at it in motion.
Right.
But in the production still, if you all look that up, it looks fucking terrifying.
Sometimes when you look at the suit, Matt, the suit stares back.
You mangled that, but you're correct.
I did.
but you're not wrong though. It does. I mean, that suit stared into my soul, and I was like, "There's no way they could have used this." And for some reason, I know why they eventually used it. It was too close to another monster that was introduced. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but because it was so close to that footage, they couldn't edit it out. So they were probably like, fuck, we have to use it. But they used it later, probably when they had more cachet. Like, well, it's a hit on Fox, so they're not going to cancel us for this monstrosity. But they only had it on screen for like under a minute overall, I would argue. So, like, I don't know what the scene looked like in Sentai, to be fair, because it's been a while. But if it's if they're cutting around it super quickly, it doesn't stare into your soul.
Right.
When you're looking at that production still. But anyway, so either way, though, Tristan, like you said, it felt like they pretty much just kind of put this together, not last minute, but like, very, very cheaply. And yes, arguably that is early Power Rangers as a whole, but it definitely seems like the way they filmed everything, like they were just trying to like have the cheap American footage blended in very much with the very limited Sentai footage, because again, this is part of a Sentai multi-episode longer arc,
right?
And they're like, look, we just want to have them fuck up Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And Frankenstein does appear again later in Power Rangers. That's how they lead into Zombie Franken or Zombie Frank. He's just Zombie Frank. There's an E at the end there, but I don't give a shit. He's Zombie Frank now. There's Zombie Frank. There's Satan Frank. But yeah, so you are correct in that this was made on a very low budget, but you sounded like you had something to say as I pour some more sake.
Yeah, I think one of the lines that I messaged you as I was watching the video was, this feels 80s as fuck, and it's starting to hurt a little bit, and you're like, this was from 93, you uncultured swine.
No, I called you a plebeian. Let the record show.
All right, you plebeian, but
I called you
either
a plebeian.
Works.
It does. Now, the reason why I called you a plebeian is because, like, I was like, look, man, I know you've had some to drink, but come on. You cannot tell me that this is from the 80s when we've been over the fact that this is part of 90s pop culture so much. So fucking much.
I guess that would be more of a 90s scene for a bunch of kids to hang out. I don't know.
No, you can say it's 80s, but I was under the impression you thought it was directly from the 80s.
No.
Oh, then you are correct. Yes, it is very 80s as fuck.
Like,
even there,
the place they're all hanging out together at, and just I don't know, just
no. The vibe, the vibe and aesthetic is very much YMCA. Like Karate Kid at the rec center. You know what I mean? You're right. You're right. I agree with you. But I was under the impression you meant like, oh, this is from the 80s. And I was like, how dare you, good sir? I was going to like bite my thumb and take off my glove.
And throw down and challenge me to a duel as you fucking morph into your super suit.
My super suit. So here's some jokes you might not have gotten, Tristan. So when Kimberly said, oh yeah, you two really tried hard in your costume, essentially. The joke is that Bulk and Skull dress like that all the time.
Yeah, no, I got that one, yeah.
Good. Also, did you get the fact that Kimberly won everyone's heart at the tender age of 5? No, how old was I when I watched? No, Kimberly, everyone loved Kimberly. Everyone. Yeah. Because, duh. I mean, I don't know what else is there to say other than like, oh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, she's the Pink Ranger, right?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember people talking about her.
Something that was not good, though, and I'm being genuine here, this is a genuine transition. I don't know if you noticed this. This is genuine. I don't know if this is something you noticed on your monitor. Tristan and I both watched this on a computer monitor. Did you notice the footage looked choppy as fuck?
Like when they transition from scenes, or
no, just in general, just them walking around and doing shit. I was like, why does this look so bad? Like on my end, it did not look crisp, if you will. Now, I'm not saying crisp like, oh, this is supposed to be like a Blu-ray, it's an HD master. No, it's not. But it did not look good on Netflix on my end. Whereas if I went to go see Zyuranger right now, and that's probably because of the fact that Toei sent Shout Factory the masters, but it looks like this was like a TV rip. like this does not look like the best quality Power Rangers could look in. I'm wondering if they like rendered it, like if when they made the files initially, they don't have the original masters or something, so they just had to work with what they had to work with to put on Netflix. Maybe you didn't notice it. Maybe it's something that's weird with my monitor and my setup, but watching it on Netflix on this this desktop, it just didn't look good. Like it looked pixelated. And I don't think it was an internet thing, because normally on Netflix you can switch and be like, oh, I want this level of quality. Not the case with Power Rangers, which was odd.
Yeah, I didn't notice any. At least I don't think I noticed anything on my end. So
All right,
I'm
so
not
then
really sure.
maybe that's an issue on my end then, because it's odd, because like it's not even like because again, it's not that this should look amazing, but this shouldn't look choppy. And as I was watching it, I was like, that's odd. The video quality is choppy. And it could totally just be something with my internet connection, but it lasted throughout the entire episode.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, that's weird. So I was very confused about that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know if you were going to notice it as well, but if you didn't, then I assume that it might just be something weird on my end. But yeah, so what do you think about their costumes, by the way? You know very little about the characters, but you know enough. What do you think? What do you think about their costumes? Cultural appropriation.
All right, yeah, a bit on the nose.
Well, okay, so it's odd because
but not at the same time.
well, here's the thing. So arguably, I don't know. It's weird because like it is. Don't get me wrong. It just is, but not for everyone, of course. Because of course, Billy not. I don't believe Jason David Frank. I don't think that was cultural appropriation. That was Frankenstein. But I mean Germany, I guess, but I don't think so. But yeah, no, Trini. I was just like, Trini, why?
Yeah.
Trini, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And then, but it's also weird because like, if you're trying to, because the thing is, so Power Rangers is supposed to be, oh, all the cultures are getting together. It's, it's not like, any one person is excluded from being on the team. But like, how awful would it have been if like Trini was like in an outfit that's stereotypically Chinese? Like, you can't do that. Like, if everyone was just dressing, like if Zach was just like, hey, I'm from Africa, it's just like, oh God, you just did this.
Yeah.
So I feel like they probably.
God, you just. I'm sorry.
All right, that took you a bit. It's okay. You got there. No, but like for real though, I feel like they probably should have just kept on going with the monster movie motif. But I think that maybe they were worried that they would get too close to Universal's depictions of the characters. So they just stuck with Frankenstein because that one is the closest to public domain. Maybe. Right. But no, they should have went for the monster movie motif though. But the thing is here's the thing though, with the monster movies, Universals, other than Wolfman, because literally, isn't Wolfman and Creature of the Black Lagoon, aren't they technically, like, they're not like folklore. Like, a werewolf is, but Wolfman is not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if they were just, I'm a werewolf, you're fine. If it was like, I'm a creature, but if it was like, I'm the creature from the Black Lagoon, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's true.
But like Frankenstein, he's fine. So even though Japan had already used him, they were like, great, we can just make a shitty suit. It wasn't that terrible, but it was make a suit. It's just so funny though, because looking at Japanese version of Frankenstein versus US, it's so funny how the US version was a lot more close to, it was still public domain, but it was like, oh yes, that's clearly Frankenstein. But the Japanese version was like, whoa, what the fuck is up with that red in his eye? Like, it was clearly like meant to be like a more creepy, weird, like, it was meant to be different, more of like a...
Yeah, they put their own twist on it, obviously, and I think my favorite addition was Frankenstein taking the bolts out of his neck to reveal that they are chained together as nunchaku.
God, I
I
love this
lost
show.
my
I
shit.
There's a reason why I said I unironically enjoyed every single minute of these 20 minutes. It was just jam packed with beautifulness.
And then like once the Japanese and the Japanese footage kicks in and he starts fighting them when the Power Rangers come at him with their weapons and then he pulls out his, I'm like, oh damn, we about to throw down.
Yes. And
Oh.
and so oh man, it's always. And by the way, I laughed so hard, and I'm not saying I should have, but I laughed so hard with Rita just on the comet and then just flies away while laughing maniacally.
Yeah.
Was it a comet? It was
Oh
just like
yeah, yeah.
that piece
She was
of.
on right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's just standing on that, just ha 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 ha, as it flies the model away.
Yeah, and then she throws her spear, and now he will grow, and just throws her spear into the ground. I'm like, all right, you're here for a good time, not a long one. Got
Hold
it.
on, you saw 5 episodes of this. You know that's how she does business.
No,
For
I know
some
that's how she
reason,
does. But I know she has like magic. I didn't think she was gonna throw her staff into the ground and cause an earthquake and cause Frankenstein to grow 3 times in size.
well, that's what's odd. She does that all the time, and they don't
Yeah.
always react to the earthquake. Although, funnily enough, she chose the best place to do it because they're in San Francisco.
Oh, jeez.
That's no one will ever notice. Oh, it's just an earthquake. It's fine. That's why
Yeah, right.
the guy who runs the guy Ernie, the guy who runs the Jamba Juice, the guy who runs the Orange Julius that they all chill out at.
Yes. Right.
He he's like, oh, it's just an earthquake because yeah, he's from California. He's like, yeah, no, this is just a fucking earthquake. Kids, chill the fuck out. It's just an earthquake. We got him all the time.
He just sits under the counter. I'll just wait for this to blow over.
Also, I love how he's, and by the way, I realized again in my youth I wanted to be Skull, maybe even Tommy, and now I realize I'm definitely an Ernie. He's a vampire. He's like, I want to suck your blood, and then they're like, we'll pass, and he's like,
We'll pass.
how'd you know it was me? It's like, I love him so much. But
I guess like the idea of just because you're wearing a costume doesn't mean it's still not obvious. Like your face isn't covered.
You are a fat Dracula. Oh yeah, no, all of the other 40-year-old fat Draculas running around the fucking youth center.
Hey man, you don't know.
No, again, but I'm trying to say I am a fat Dracula.
Oh.
At the end of the day. Anything else you want to say about this episode before we move on to the sake?
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, I mean, so the fact, like, so even I knew that, calling in the Dragon Zord and the Dragon Zord and then them fusing together was a big deal. I'm like, oh, they had to go all out on this one.
Yeah.
But,
well, the first time they had to. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You mean, I thought you meant in the creation of the footage. I'm like, they only had to the first time. They reused it all the time.
Yes, it's the same footage.
No, but
I don't know if you're privy to this, Tristan, but it's the same clip each time.
Which is hilarious. No, but you meant they had to go out to destroy Frankenstein because, of course, he's Frankenstein.
And the fact that they just, like, it's quick. Like, they don't actually, like, I mean, I guess they show it, but not like the direct on. They do it from the side. Like, he does stab him though, and then they just pan back out. And I'm like, oh, that's a hole. They fucking punctured it.
Well, no, yeah, yeah.
And then he just starts exploding. I'm like, damn. All right.
So it's a few things. So first
no more
of
fucking
all,
around, huh?
It's a few things. First of all, it's just true. 90s, 2000s. I'm not saying it doesn't get done today, but it's something that I noticed as a child, and you did too while watching stuff, where if it was a human, if that was like, that is a human, then no, you cannot puncture the human. Oh, it's a monster?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Like, the second you say it's a robot, you can do anything. It's hilarious how that gets around the sensors.
I love how you went to the Samurai Jack equivalent as well as my brain did. I'm like, it's like when Jack gets covered in oil from robots. It's like, no, it's not blood. Don't worry about it.
it's not just that, although thank you for going there. We've talked about that over at those guys on the radio channel, but I was thinking like original Ninja Turtles, where the Foot Clan
Oh, right.
were not people.
Right.
They were in
I
the
keep forgetting
comics.
that.
In the comics they were, but in the
Right.
show
They were not.
they were robots. And
Ah.
you could literally have their bows pierce through them and rip through their body to their skull and shit.
Right. Oh, and that's how Leonardo got to use his sword then.
Yes, and kunai, and then in the films, the first one they used their weapons a lot, but then in the second one they actually rarely used them because they
Right.
were fighting humans.
Yeah.
Really good stunt actors from Hong Kong, but sadly all human. So they just couldn't like use them, and it was really frustrating just watching the shift where it was like, yeah, we can use our weapons, and then they just couldn't. I guess
Because like
they were
Sai, you can still turn around and use the blunt end as like bludgeoning. But it's a little harder to do that. I mean, technically, like he could flip his blades around and not use the bladed edge of his sword, but still, yeah,
No,
it's a little hard for Leonardo to, use his primary weapon of choice when it's a cutting edge.
What I love so much is I could tell Tristan right now the Power Rangers crossed over with Ninja Turtles, and he'd think I was fucking with him.
No. I wouldn't think you were fucking with me at all. Not that I know that's true or not, but I could totally see it being a thing.
Okay, good. Thank goodness. I thought you knew too much. I was like, no, we must reset him. Shut him down and reset him.
Well, I mean, is it a thing? Because now you'll never tell me, though.
We must find the commander and reset him. Crayfish has become self-aware. The crayfish.
What was the... Oh, yes. So the other referential joke to ourselves and other content that we've done previously.
Okay, I'm happy to hear it.
Well, I wasn't when I saw it. Gonna be real honest. Because when Frankenstein grew 3 sizes that day, I got immediate flashbacks to Frankenstein Conquers the World, and I was like, oh dear God, no.
Yes, we talked about that for an episode of Friday Night Movies. I'm sorry, I was like, have we spoken about the Grinch? I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? I was like, did I forget about us talking about the Grinch? Yes, no, so Frankenstein Conquers the World, Japanese film, different name in Japan, but yeah, and then Baragon, I forgot what the full name.
That was his first appearance.
Well, no, because there was a sequel as well. It was, because we talked about both.
Right.
We talked about Frankenstein Conquers.
Oh no, I've made a mistake. I'm making him dig into this much more than I wanted him to.
Yeah, it was a Toku film from '65. Again, we talked about that a while ago. I don't think we'll ever talk about it again, although, because there's enough Power Rangers Halloween specials to last us a very long time. But by the way, Eiji Tsuburaya actually worked on the special effects, which is pretty cool. Tsuburaya being the creator of the company Tsuburaya, who created Ultraman, and also, by the way, he worked on Godzilla. So,
right.
But Frankenstein did fight Baragon, but the sequel, by the way, the original version was called Frankenstein versus Baragon, but the sequel, I want to make sure I get the name right here. Right, okay, I have it. The War of the Gargantuas. That's the American name. The Japanese name was Frankenstein's Monsters, Sanda versus Gaida. Right. And yeah, that was hilarious. We actually we took a look at both, which was funny. But no, apparently, by the way, the film The War of the Gargantuas has actually been noted by Brad Pitt, Quentin Tarantino, Guillermo del Toro, and Tim Burton as a fun film. Like they actually talked about it as because apparently the film has become a cult classic over the years.
Oh boy!
So that's hilarious. Brad Pitt, Tarantino, Guillermo del Toro, and Tim Burton. So Guillermo del Toro, a young Guillermo del Toro, saw this movie and was like, Pacific Rim, yes.
Yes.
Clearly.
Obviously.
I mean, there's no other... What else can you... Quentin Tarantino saw this movie and was just like, Reservoir Dogs, yes.
Oh my God.
This will totally one day become Pulp Fiction. Yes. Anyway, so but on a more serious note, back to what we were talking about. So yeah, the show. Before we move on to the sake, I want to mention that interestingly enough, so when it comes to the creation of this show, I should have mentioned this much earlier, but we were having fun just talking about the episode and whatnot. So this was created by Saban. So Saban initially had the rights to it, like I mentioned earlier, sold that off to Disney, then bought it back, then sold it to Hasbro, and now here we are. So, but when it comes to Saban initially having the rights to it, there are some pilots. Maybe we'll talk about that one day as well. But when it comes to the pilots, initially he was even thinking, there have been rumors and talk that he was initially thinking of looking at a show a few years prior to this show, because again, this one came out in 92. So they had to work very close because Power Rangers came out in 93. So once they actually got the ball rolling on this show, they had to be very close to when these episodes had come out in Japan. Because remember, Tristan, in Japan, Sentai comes out on a weekly basis.
Right.
And Sentai came out in the late 70s, and it's been weekly almost ever since. Few notable exceptions here or there, especially during, with everything going on right now. Things got a little hectic, of course. But usually it is a show that comes out once a week. Every season is about 40 to 50 episodes, other than not including the earliest, which was actually in the 80s, because they had no idea Go Ranger was going to be a success, was going to end up making the Super Sentai franchise, so they just made Go Ranger for a while. And then the Jack, the sequel, the next series, I won't say a sequel, but the next series was only like 35 episodes. They had no idea, like, oh, we're going to structure these 50 a year, we're going to have these production meetings and all this shit. So either way, eventually Saban had found the show in Japan, and I have a theory. The reason why he was actually in Japan and he found out about the show and thought about it, because it's been said that he thought, oh, I mean, this is working for kids in Japan, this will clearly work for kids in America. And my theory is, so at the time, in the 80s, this is in the 80s here, because this was, before not just Z Ranger, but this was sometime in the mid to late 80s where Nickelodeon actually had anime. And it was a bunch of kid stuff, like about koalas and stuff like that. But I am under the impression that because he had to license those shows from Toei, some of them from Toei, I believe it meant he mentioned, or someone mentioned at some point, that he saw it in a hotel room. So I am under the impression that under a business meeting trying to license these shows for Nickelodeon, he then found this show and he was like, oh, this will work for kids. And I don't know if people found him crazy. I would imagine they would have. Like, really, this show for American kids, really? But Fox took a chance after a few pilot attempts. And again, the show was very cheap to produce because of the fact that when you get the show, I don't know how much the rights were to license, but you have all of that action footage at your disposal. So he had 50 episodes of Z Ranger just at his disposal immediately, just by paying the rights. So imagine that, right? Just going, okay, so I just have to get people to write stuff with the kids in mind. And after you do that, then you get the kids to, they weren't kids, but like the actors who played the teenagers to dub over all the lines, do their own stuff, which they were non-union at the time, do their own stuff, and then dub over the stuff for the actual Power Rangers suit, stuff, and also in the Megazords. That's very cheap to produce. You have half of your show already made, basically.
Yeah.
So, it's very interesting, and again, that's a little brief, abridged history of the show, and now we can move on to talking about our sake. So, Tristan, talk about your mystery sake first.
Okay, so on bottom shelf number one, the one we've forgotten about for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
allegedly.
So my bottle is Sho Chikubai Premium Jumain Sake. This is usually the bottle that my father goes for the most. So it's good at any temperature, warm, room, or chilled.
Oh.
It's got a 15% alcohol content. Nice.
What does it taste like? Well, sorry, what did it initially taste like, and what does it taste like now?
So yeah, that's the thing. It's very it's aged, and sake usually you don't want to age your sake. So
It's
it's a
eligible.
bit
It's eligible for preschool, right?
it's a bit off. Yes, it's got a bit of a bite and an aftertaste, which it's not supposed to have.
Hold on, it's not supposed to have an aftertaste. Oh no, I'm looking at mine.
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on now.
Well, not a strong one anyway.
Okay, then we're good.
And also, I think the most alarming thing about this is that it's slightly discolored. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be clear. It's got a slight tinge of yellow to it.
Okay, I'll start writing up your eulogy. And if you could tell everyone how well of a life you've lived, I think this might be the best time.
Yeah, right. I might as well get it all out now, here and now on this podcast.
Your last
'cause,
will
it might
and
be my
testament.
last. Wow, I'm gonna go out on fucking Power Rangers versus Frankenstein for Halloween special. That's how I'm gonna go out, Matt. Okay. But yes, it's usually kind of similarly paired with dishes that I mentioned last time. Mostly like fishes, tempura, sushi dishes. Although this one is actually good with some more fried dishes like tonkatsu, and even barbecued meats too.
So you don't know how
It
much
gives
yours cost because you didn't buy it.
no, but it is a relatively large bottle, so I would assume it's a decent amount.
Mm.
I wouldn't say any more than 50, but it might be around there.
Really?
Maybe more like 30, 40.
Wow. So then your bottle is probably much larger than mine.
Yeah, no, this is the big one.
Okay. I can see why now it's been there for years. Even if people were to take a stab at it, still, it's a pretty big one.
Yeah, and then just the little blurb they give. Premium Junmai sake is produced with the highest grade California rice, polished to 60% and fermented slowly at a low temperature. The rich mellow flavor of premium Junmai sake, with its delightful aroma, is enjoyable either warm or chilled.
Well, that's lovely. So again, how does it taste? Does it taste discolored?
A little bit.
Excellent. Do you know what it was supposed to taste like initially? So you would not recommend having this for either 1 to 4 years left out, which
No.
okay, great. So today
I
you
would definitely
put on
recommend drinking it within a timely manner that you buy it.
yes, so Sherlock Holmes puts on the tweed cap. Now
But it's not to say that drinking this is going to make me sick or anything. Like, it's fine. It's just
we will we have a facebook.com/those guys on the radio. Our Twitter is at those guys radio. We will update you on Tristan's condition as it unfolds.
Oh,
now,
okay. I thought you were going to update me on my own condition.
that would be quite odd, but I would know somehow. All right, so I'll talk about mine now. Now, funnily enough, we're somewhat twinning it up. We're twinsies today. I have Shochikubai Classic Junmai Sake. So yours is new and improved. Mine's is classic. Also 15% alcohol, by the way. Hell yeah. Now, it's funny. So when I looked this one up online, it said that I should actually keep this refrigerated. So already I fucked up. But here's why I left it out. Because it says that you can have it room temperature. It's actually excellent. Even though initially, so again, if things were colder out, I would have actually warmed this up in the microwave. But no, I'm not doing that. So it's odd because, it says that it's excellent if it's room temperature, but then also don't leave it out. So chilled is good. So if it was chilled, that'd be all right. But either way, though, this one in particular was actually only $9 to $10. So it must be a much smaller bottle than yours. I have to say that I definitely do recommend it. It's hard to explain the taste, though, because nothing outwardly like sticks out to me. It's very odd. Like last time I was like, oh, was that like peach? But in this case, as I'm drinking it, I'm like, wow, that's alcoholic.
Yeah, well, I mean, in most cases, unless it's flavored, like you said, like the last one you had, sake is usually very light tasting.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have like a strong taste to it, like beers and other alcohols do.
It is strong
Um,
though. Like when you drink it, you're like, ooh, there's a burning. So I would suggest, if it's warm out, maybe don't have it because you're gonna feel a bit warmer yourself. I'm feeling a bit warm in the chair here as we're drinking this. So I feel like, normal October weather, it would be a great time to have some. But it's been a bit humid the last
humid October weather. No
yeah,
bueno.
yeah, it's been humid the last few days. So as I'm drinking this right now, I would not recommend it under humid conditions. And it says here that the tip for warming sake, the ideal temperature is approximately 100 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Warm sake carafe in hot water in a few minutes, and never boil sake. I did not know that.
Mm.
So never boil it. And also it mentions that
Well, yeah, you don't want to boil any alcohol because it'll boil off.
I did not know that. I don't know much about much. I drink it. I don't boil it, so I've never had to think like, oh, should I boil it?
That's never been a problem. So
I mean, yeah, like so. But looking over here at food pairing, mildly seasoned. It's grilled or poached fish or meat. How much have I had? Sushi, tempura, sukiyaki, teriyaki, all Japanese foods, and many other Asian dishes. So overall, again, I would recommend this, but I definitely would recommend it for colder weather. I don't think it's. They said it's excellent room temperature. I think it's okay. So I would suggest heating it up. I did enjoy heating it up, but again, it was colder at the time. I definitely suggest heating it up. And I have not tried it chilled, but I think under these conditions, I probably should have tried to chill it.
yeah, usually I prefer mine chilled. But colder weather, hot sake is always nice. My family always prefers theirs heated.
Yes. I normally, I went for room temperature for the most part. Last time room temperature was just fine, and I was having a blast. You can go back and listen to that Kuga episode. We talked about, that was the first episode. We talked about Kuga episodes 1 and 2. And boy, I was having a grand old time. I was happy. I'm happy this time, don't get me wrong. But like I was, whew. Tristan, you can say it.
I mean, I didn't think you were that far gone.
All right, thank you.
You have a slight level of tolerance about you.
Do I really?
I mean, yes.
Oh,
Compared to other people that I've drank with, yes.
okay, that's fair. That bar must be very low. Who are these other people? But also should be noted that Tommy didn't just play Frankenstein at the end. It does seem as if that he played him also throughout the episode. Not vocally,
hilarious.
not vocally, but like just the stand-in to walk around.
The stand-in. I kind of had a sinking suspicion when they had him do the costume at the end of the episode. I'm like, oh, you were the stand-in, weren't you?
Yeah.
When you mentioned it, that there was a stand-in for the English filming part, I'm like, oh, they had Tommy do that too, didn't they?
Yeah. But either way, so and also I should mention that the Japanese version of Franken, he was not just in that one episode. He was also in this series he was, but in general he's actually been in a bunch of other Toku as well. He was in Kamen Rider Black. He was in Tokei Winspector, Tokyu Shide Soulbrain. Oh god, Winspector too. Have I shown you the Winspector opening, Tristan? I have to show it to you after this. He's like, they're just screaming, Winspector! No, it's very intense. I love it. He was also in Die Ranger as well. Oh, that's where I know him from. Holy shit. Sorry. In this episode, he obviously did not have a role where you could see his face. But I'm seeing his face right now, and I'm like, as an actor, he looks very familiar. He had an on-screen role where you could see his face, voice role for the entirety of Die Ranger, one of my favorite Sentai series. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. This makes a lot of sense. Also, he's been in Gingaman as well as Kamen Rider Kabuto. Oh, interesting. He was in the first episode. Huh. I must have seen him and did not even realize it. But no, but I love him as Zydos in Die Ranger, so that's actually really funny. Now, either way though, as we're wrapping this up, Tristan, would you Power Rangers again? Would you?
For our own spectacular iteration for the show, or the regular just.
Yeah, the regular.
Okay. I have to be. Oh, I can't just do it on the spot, man. I have to be prepared for this sort of thing.
Oh, of course.
Am I outroing us, or?
No, I'm just asking in general. Would you? He dodged my question. Would you Does this make you want to watch more Power Rangers, or are you just like?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted me to sing us out.
No, I did not. I want the record to show, because you're going to die soon, that I did not. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it's your dying wish, I'll let you do it.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I would watch more episodes. The first few that I saw with a friend, there was a definite. I think it was when they first announced, it was like a few months after that, they were saying, "Oh, Power Rangers is on Netflix now," and my friend was so happy about it. So we're like, yeah, all right, man. He's like, I want to have a pizza party and we can watch Power Rangers and it'll be like the '90s again. And I'm like, I can't refuse this, man.
Yeah, no.
He's just too damn happy about it.
No. We also went to high school with him as well. So, you friended him more than I did, because I left our senior year. I wasn't there.
I love the fact that you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Well, no, because you also went to see the movie with him. So I know exactly who you're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But was Anthony there?
Yes, Anthony was there too.
I want to hear the Mr. Writer getting his is he getting a master's degree?
I believe no, he's pretty sure he's in graduate courses right now, so it would be graduate degree.
All right, graduate degree. Thank you. I want to hear his thoughts on Power Rangers. We have to get him on for TokuSake.
I don't think you want him to hurt you like that.
No, I do. With Sake, I would. I'd love for him to, because I've talked to him about stuff before, Halloween related, over at those guys on the radio channel. You and I took The Ring. He and I took The Grudge, and the both of you drank over The Grudge, of him having to talk about The Grudge as it progressed into a series that he and I did not enjoy.
We made a group.
A group therapy session.
We made a group called The Ring of associates who have been affected by movies that Matt Marrero has made us watch, and that we hold a grudge against him. It's a long title. We're still workshopping it, but
that's fair. I assume I am not invited.
No.
Okay, that's fair. But no. But in all seriousness, so this is not on that list.
No. This is certainly not on that list.
Yeah, because again, it's just silly fun. I think that's what it is. That's what.
Oh yeah. No, definitely.
Like
I said, the first few episodes that I saw, I definitely had fun with it. The fact that I had a friend that was like, yeah, this is my childhood. I'm like, yeah, I can expect that. I can respect that.
Well, that's the thing. If you had just turned on Fox 5 like a good little fucking kid, you would have seen.
No, if I had kept Fox 5 on.
Correct.
Because I watched Digimon.
Correct. I don't know how I saw this as a kid outside of that time with my father's girlfriend, because I know I had a tape of it at some point, a homemade tape that I either myself or my friend had recorded episodes. I know I had that, but other than that, I don't know how else I saw this. Maybe they played episodes during the day on Fox, and I saw it that way daily, because I know that I don't think I saw it every Saturday, because at the time I'm so young, I'm not beholden to television schedules.
Right.
So I don't know how I fell in love with it after the initial exposure, but I obviously, very much enjoyed it. I know that I followed it on ABC Family alongside Digimon. That's where I saw most of my Digimon stuff, was later on ABC Family. because I know at the time I was watching Pokemon as well. But yeah, overall, you could have been a Power Rangers kid.
I could have. I mean, like I said, my cousin who was like 3 years older than me, he was definitely a Power Rangers kid.
You loved Godzilla. We've talked about Godzilla over at Those Guys on the Radio, different movies. Like, you were a Godzilla kid, checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it helped because like my father introduced Godzilla to me, so I guess that helps.
Definitely. I want to hear your dad's thoughts on Power Rangers. This is stupid and this is nothing like Godzilla. Well, actually,
I mean, he'd probably chuckle at it.
I just want to see if he makes the connection as someone who's a huge Godzilla fan.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. Yeah.
Yeah. But anywho, so either way, we're gonna wrap this one up, the spooky Halloween edition. Hope you all were spooked. I think the spookiest thing of all was Tristan's 4-year-old Sake.
There you go.
Do you understand?
My Sake is haunted.
Do you understand that Sake has officially been trained out of diapers? Like, it's been potty trained. You know that, right? You understand that?
I don't know that for sure.
Well, someone had to potty train it. Have you noticed poop around the house?
I meant the age. Oh, boy, you'd be testing me.
We're going to let you all go. Tune in next month when we talk about something completely different. But we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So, love you all. Take care. Tune into the plethora of other stuff that we talk about on this channel. If you're listening to this through our TokuDragon channel, or if you're listening to this through our Podbean, which is Those Guys on the Radio. We have audio podcasts for days on there because we've been doing this for a very long time. Again, Those Guys on the Radio, where we talk about some other stuff as well. And if you want to see Tristan and I play games and have a good time, that's actually available over at our Those Guys Play channel. So, love you all. Take care and tune in next time. Tristan, any last words?
Mighty Morphin Sake Rangers.
I'm drinking sake right now.